Though a little over a year doesn't seem to be too long, for me, I've underwent a complete transformation within that time. I made new friends, lost some, and got even closer to those I can thankfully still call friends. I did very well this school year in terms of grades and evolved as a person overall. Of course, as with anything of this nature, there are certain things I will not disclose due to them being personal. So, about that. I'm writing this script late at night, shortly after I finished recording and uploading my previous video. I wanted to delve into personal topics in that video to a much greater extent than I ended up doing, but I knew it would be jarring for returning viewers if I include some of the stuff I wanted to, amid all my apologies and thank yous and whatnot. Also, there's just a ton I want to go over, so that is why I've decided to create this addendum. As I write the script, there are many thoughts running around in my mind, and I'm clueless as to what direction this video will take. Before I start, just know that I intend to explore many mature topics in this video, if you will, and I know my usage of that word is suspect as hell, but bear with me, as most of this information is personal to me, and there is a reason why I want to share it. I've never, and I do mean never, discussed things of this nature publicly, so buckle up. This is a video like none other I've made in my almost 10 years of YouTube experience. And yeah, after reviewing this audio and post, you're going to want headphones for this one. Or at least make sure nobody's around while you're watching, or you're gonna get funny looks. So, where to start? I guess I'll preface this all by saying a lot has indeed happened during my hiatus, as I've implied. That complete transformation of mine I said I underwent in my previous video was no understatement. I got new morals, and above all, a new perspective on and appreciation for my life. Most of the memories from the rest of 2021 after my hiatus informally began are lost though, but believe me, I did search laboriously for them. I suppose I can start by saying those Rise of Nations videos with my friends and the great successes they ended up being allowed me to get closer to said friends featured in them, being 3 of my buddies in real life. In fact, the 25th of January 2021 was the birth of a long-lasting Discord server I'll refer to as Roachcord, which we still use to this day. Though I was fairly inactive in it during its earliest days, not attending voice chats whenever possible and such as like I do now, its creation was an important event that brought us all together, once and for all. Then, April comes around, and I make a community post stating that I intended to make a high production value video like my Roblox Egg Hunt 2020 review whenever the Egg Hunt 2021 came out. Because, yeah, I was one of those people still somehow hopeful that Roblox would actually make an Egg Hunt 2021. Or 2022 for that matter. And I was merely excited for a potential Egg Hunt 2021, knowing it would likely be total garbage and follow the 50 games, 50 eggs format Roblox was pushing since Egg Hunt 2019. And God, how I've forgotten how appalling those events actually were. Because I simply wanted to dedicate time to another review video. It was an idea I had sought to realize for a while, almost instantly after making the Egg Hunt 2020 review. Then April came and went, and no Egg Hunt and thus no review. A year of waiting for nothing. Nothing. And later when Nukes got added to Rise of Nations back in late August of 2021, my trio planned to organize and record another video on the game, with me hoping I could use a new upload as a last effort to revitalize my channel. Keep in mind, this happened 7 months since my upload on New Year's of that year, after which uploads abruptly ended. So fans were already wondering what the hell happened to me. But unfortunately, as stated in my previous video, we got discouraged to make the video on Rise of Nations after seeing how tedious it was to obtain nukes, something I decided was absolutely necessary for us to get footage of before I turned it into a video. And with us being burned out from Rise of Nations in general, having played it essentially every other day for hours at a time, the video never came to be. And that, combined with the lack of Egg Hunt 2021, made the AnomalousDucky channel go silent, where it remained dormant until my update video. And to segue to my next topic, here's a little more history. Let's go back to April 15th, when a beautiful yet unlikely friendship between me and my now best pal was blossomed. Now, this individual, who my friends that may or may not be watching already know who I'm talking about based on that alone, could get a video of his own. I mean, if I told you most of the stuff he did, you'd just think I'm making it up. It really is that ludicrous. But in short, he showed up in the late days of middle school, where I met many of the friends I have now, sometime in 2019. I never really got to know him back then, and we sort of had bad blood between one another due to certain happenings. Okay. If I'm making a video like this, I may as well say it. I know he probably won't care if I discuss this here, as I'm not going to leak his name or anything. We've already forgiven and forgotten, and he admitted he regrets what he did and has moved past it. We also reminisce on it a ton, hence this story has been retold more than Alice in Wonderland. So, without further ado, this is what happened. During the school year, we had this underground Google Slides where me and my friends would occasionally shitpost and talk to each other via the comments feature. Well, this individual spammed hentai all over the slides one day. Yep. Safe to say that was when I decided it had to go, but not before a potential life-ruining incident almost occurred. See, I was in first block and I saw him posting it, and as the classes were about to switch, I quickly shut off my iPad not only to hide it, but to line up the door, shocked as ever, as you'd imagine. After the bell rang, I bolted to my second block, which was PE and not too far away. As usual, I waited in the locker room for everyone else to leave, which my instructor wasn't accustomed to, as I had requested them to let me do so, as it made me more comfortable. And after everyone left, I hastily got on my iPad and deleted the slides. Or it would have been that simple if my science teacher from first block didn't suddenly come into the locker room looking for me. I kid you not, I could feel my heart rate increase and my body grow physically weak as I heard him say, "Can I see your iPad for a moment, son?" Thankfully, he wanted to see something completely unrelated in my settings, but I was just in the process of deleting the slides and it was literally opened on a tab in clear view. He even saw me fiddling around with it while he stood just out of reach to see what I was doing. But if he had seen that, my God. So, yeah, it's a story, alright. But that's the kind of stuff you should expect to hear in this video. I bet you never expect stories like this to come from me of all people, which is something I do get a lot and am thus no stranger to hearing. I tell my real-life friends about some of the escapades and mishaps in my commune of online friends, which they find very entertaining and surprising as they had no idea that I've witnessed such things. And that's why I'm making this video, to humanize myself with you guys and create a discussion, as well as have these stories reach an audience when previously they only been shared between me and my closest friends. I feel it's just an important aspect of maturity to open up about these things, and if you're hearing this, I'm glad you're sticking around to hear what I have to say, no matter how strange of a turn this video is already taking. It's really all I could ask for. Anyways, back to where I was. This now compadre of mine, who at first caused me a lot of trouble, who we'll refer to as Curbs for simplicity's sake here on out, would become my best friend during high school in 2021. How it happened is pretty remarkable, but I won't share the details as it involved a lot of insensitive jokes. Before I go on, I regret having made such jokes and overall being a huge edgelord back then, because believe me, I was. I just didn't show it here on YouTube, because that stuff shouldn't be said at all, really. It'd get me in a whole lot of trouble, too, obviously, but I do in fact regret having made jokes like that. I apologize to any of my friends I may have disappointed with my behavior back then, because it was truly immature of me, but don't fret, I've abandoned my old ways. And anywho, I had an ELA class with Curbs because I was pretty good at English, and so I got into the same class with him. Oh yeah, did I mention that he's like the smartest kid in our school? Well, he is, and I was lucky to get a class with him. In the first few months, we of course recognized each other, with the Google Slides isn't it still firmly planted in my mind and all that. But we only exchanged glances because we both never got to know each other back in middle school as I stated prior. In all honesty, it was really awkward, and it dragged on for a long while. Eventually, during the last few weeks of school, we then and only then began talking to each other, and he was the one to break the silence. He made an insensitive joke, which I will not say here because it's just very offensive, but it was a riot to me at the time. After that, I asked for his Discord, but he just wouldn't yield until a couple days later of small talk in the hallways as we waited for the teacher to unlock the room. When he eventually did hand over his Discord, our first few days of talking were mainly just exchanging insensitive memes, and our conversations never had any sentimentality whatsoever. However, this all changed when summer of 2021 began. Having gone the entire school year without seeing any but 2 of my friends, since the school district put me in classes without them because I caused chaos with them like a delinquent during middle school, I began to value those who were still talking to me more and more. This is when I began to notice something about Curbs in particular, too. He was messaging me practically every day. This was unusual to me as typically I'm the one who messaged someone first, not vice versa. But anyways, our conversations slowly became more and more meaningful, and as I declared to him that this summer was perhaps going to be the most boring one I've ever lived through, I begged him to talk with me more and more each day. Without him, I genuinely do not know what I'd have done during that summer other than sit around all day. Knowing we'd always have a conversation to exchange was a sole motivator for waking up every morning. It really got that serious. But yeah, summer was generally unremarkable, but it was nonetheless a great time for me and him to bond. Without it, we'd never have gotten as close as we are now. Plus, I got my first job working for my grandfather, something I'm already nostalgic for. He's the manager of this small little workforce where they install ventilation and work on houses under construction and all that. I don't mind that Pops thought I was lazy, though, as I wasn't allowed to touch the power tools and whatnot. So I basically got paid for doing nothing other than moving stuff, truthfully. I'd happily give Pops all the money I earned back then, since I don't really think I deserve it. But we got to drive around a lot, as I said before, something I've come to appreciate as one of my favorite things ever, in which my love for cars was born. And we went to Wendy's every morning for biscuits. My coworkers were in their mid-30s to 40s and all filthy smokers, but one guy in particular, Hector, was a riot. He'd carry around this small little radio and listen to 80s pop music while we were working. It was just a time I fondly remember, and I've been contemplating working with him again this summer. Man, I miss Hector. And yeah, this script is already approaching the length of my update videos one, yet I feel like I've barely said half of what I want to. If you'll allow me a minute to go on a side tangent here, this is what I find most amazing about myself, that I can just go on and on about all this in such intricate detail. Speaking of, why do I talk about curbs here in such intricate detail? Well, to put it simply, I'm coping. Yep, you heard me right. I'm coping because he left Discord for an indeterminate amount of time on May 8th, which is not too long ago from now, but it still feels like an eternity nonetheless. We have 42,899 messages, which amounts to 1,716 pages of messages. It's astonishing. And I know he said he'll come back, but again, he never gave a date, so his return could come as much as a surprise to me as much as a surprise that my return was for you guys. And as for why he's left, this is like the third or fourth time he's done this. He's always mooted the idea of leaving here and there, but he explicitly said that he may leave for good this time around. Essentially, he feels like Discord and social media is bad for him, simple as, and that he needs isolation. He said he was going to dedicate his time off learning as many new skills as possible and improving himself. And hey, if you're watching this, Curbs, I wish the best of luck to you in your endeavor. It makes me happy knowing that you've made the right decision for yourself, and I think we can all respect your course of action. Now, let's go back to the start of school in August of 2021. This is the school year succeeding the creation of me and Curbs' friendship, and so I began the school year with high hopes. On the first day of school, as part of an on-campus program, which I've since dropped out of since they make you cut your hair short, and, well, I like my hair long now, I stood at the car rider line and directed traffic, making sure the cars moved all the way up. During this time, I only saw Curbs, and keep in mind I was out there for almost the entire morning. My fears that I would not see any more of my friends were further validated when I went the entire day not seeing one but Maddie, who I've since come to know as another best friend of mine. Of course, seeing him made me joyous, especially as I hadn't heard from him in almost an entire year, but it did nothing to soften the blow. Due to COVID and the sheer amount of kids who attend the school, they implemented this new lunch system where certain people go to lunch at certain times. This meant my other friends went to lunch at different times than me, and so I did not get to see them. At least the year was easy, with me securing my best grade in math, my worst subject since early middle school. But man, was I furious. The preceding summer was so boring that I was actually yearning for school to begin, only to be hit with the realization that I got comically unlucky and have all my expectations subverted. This is, again, because of my mischief I had with my friends in middle school, and so I started a conspiracy that the school intentionally put me in classes without them. But hey, I'd be lying if I just said nothing of note happened that school year, but if I were to talk about some of it, this video would be an hour long. No kidding. So, let's just fast forward and say me and Curbs' constant messaging helped me get through the year, and it ended extremely fast as such. School ended for us just a week ago, even, and back in April, there were entire nothing burger days just spent sitting around, and so I took the opportunity to begin reading during class. I was reading nothing other than the webcomic Homestuck, which you can blame you-know-who for getting me into. But God, I loved it. I don't care what you think of it, and I do know it's generally not held in high regard, but I cried at the ending for a good 30 minutes for fuck's sake. I was seriously invested in it and the characters, but I'm not here to spend 5 hours debating on why it's a masterpiece. Just know I am glad that I did read it. But I digress. I'd also be misleading you if I said that school year was a breeze all the way throughout. Because in January of this year, I got COVID. Yes, and I was quarantined, meaning I went an entire month without attending school, instead having to do it online. This was a nightmare, especially so due to the symptoms of COVID, and online school generally being a mess. I had so many tests to make up when I got back, an average of 20 in one of my classes due to work I couldn't make up at home. It's safe to say this is all really discouraging, and this was the only point during the school year where I actually really struggled. And you bet I struggled. A lot. But I got through it. Not before a horrifying thing happened to me, though. While I was down with COVID, a mosquito must have bitten me or something. A bump literally larger than my eye appeared on my right cheek, and oh god, it was insufferable. It itched so bad, and my parents hadn't seen anything like it. But it eventually went away, and even afterward, I was still astonished and terrified by how big that fucking thing was. I for real thought it was going to kill me. And I know my description sort of makes light of my experience, but if it isn't obvious, COVID is still no joke. If any of you viewers have had it, or have had family members who've had it, I sincerely pray that you've all gotten through it. But one positive thing happened while I was quarantined, and it was that I got a lot of time to develop a Hello Neighbor mod. Yep, you heard me right yet again. A Hello Neighbor mod. Content I used to be famous for making. A top secret endeavor, it officially began to develop on New Year's of 2022, which, fun fact, was the 1 year anniversary of my last Rise of Nations video. Energized by the upcoming Hello Neighbor 2, I began to wrap up development on it while I was quarantined, because it's not like I had much else to do. And now, don't get your hopes up too high because I don't ever plan to finish this mod. It's been dormant, much in the same way my Corporageddon project has. Like I said, I'll be super into working on a project only to abruptly lose interest in it and never see it to completion. It sucks, and it's what I consider to be the worst part about me. I wish I could do better in this aspect. But less moping, more details. Here are some screenshots of what it looked like. This was going to be my grandest mod yet, and I learned a lot about architecture since my last mod, Harold's Neighbor Before, which was made all the way back in October of 2018. Whereas my houses used to just be squares with a triangle on top, or massive creations like something straight from a Dr. Seuss book, I was really investing time into this mod to make it look good. And I'd say I did a fair enough job. The houses I built actually looked like houses, for starters, and I was satisfied with what I had done so far. But of course, it came to an end. I just stopped one day and never returned to it. I originally planned to release it silently and perhaps even upload a teaser trailer to this very YouTube channel or two, but it never came to be, unfortunately. I wanted to return to the Hello Neighbor modding scene with a surprise, and it was going to be great, yet it never got finished. I only finalized the second floor, and I put meticulous detail and laborious effort into making it look good, which I suppose led to my burnout. I wish I could have seen it to completion, as with my other dead projects, but this is just how it is. Perhaps I may go back to it one day, though. Who knows? Also, here's a little gameplay of the mod.
En 1997, después de 150 años de historia, en ING decidimos replantearnos nuestra forma de hacer.
Yes, what is it?
My name is Ellison. This is Harry Jarvis. We're from the Morning Chronicle. I wonder if we could come in for a minute.
Well, I am rather busy.
Now he's going to move like right along to McGregor.
Good evening, dear. What are you station? I haven't gotten around to giving a straight answer to that one in 4 months. So you're clear, as you know already. I'm executive counsel.
I think it's time to finally end this behemoth of a video, and I'm aware it's certainly a lot to take in. I'm just really happy that I could express this aspect of myself in the form of a video and get all this stuff that's been running through my head for over a year now out there to my fan base. As I said in the opening moments of this video, there is a reason I wanted to tell you all about this, and it's that I've been meaning to share all of the above for a good while. Plus, I promised myself I would update you guys, and I believe my last video was not sufficient enough in doing that, hence why I decided I needed to say more. But yeah, it's getting unbearably hot in this recording closet, so I'll end things off here. AnomalousDucky, out.